Once upon a time, there lived a king called Polyander Partaban, who was the ruler of Cyberia. The king was a great warrior, and being an advocate of the methods of modern strategy, above all else, he prized cybernetics as a military art. His kingdom was full of thinking machines. He ordered to fix electric brains in the rocks upon the roads so they could caution pedestrians against tripping. He installed them in posts, in walls, in trees, so that one could ask directions anywhere when lost. The nature in Cyberia was also cybernetically enhanced. It was impossible to walk on Cyberia without bumping into an intelligent machine. For example, in his kingdom were manufactured cyber beetles and buzzing cyber bees, and even cyber flies. These would be seized by mechanical spiders when they grew too numerous. But besides these civilian devices, there were twice as many military, for the king's the greatest passion was waging wars. In his palace vaults, he had a computer, the strategy machine, as well as many others, smaller ones, and a whole arsenal of every other kind of weapon, including powder. There was only this one problem. The king was troubled by the fact that he had not a single enemy, and no one in any way wished to invade his land. Thus, he couldn't demonstrate his kingly and terrifying courage, his tactical genius, not to mention the extraordinary effectiveness of his cybernetic weaponry. In the absence of genuine enemies, the king ordered his engineers. "I want you to build me artificial aggressors, now!" His engineers followed the order immediately, and against these he did battle, and always won. The people of Cyberia were very unhappy, as the king's wars with synthetic enemies destroyed their settlements and towns. Soon the king got bored with the war games on the planet. Now it was cosmic wars that he dreamed of. His planet had a large moon. The king laid heavy taxes upon his subjects to obtain the funds needed to build armies on that moon and have there a new theater of war. The royal engineers built on the moon a splendid computer, which was to create all manner of troops and self-firing gunnery. One day, the king wanted to test the machine's prowess. Thus, he ordered one of his engineers to telegraph the moon computer. "The order for the machine: do an electro jump. Signed, King Polyander." The moon computer got the message. However, the text of the telegraph underwent a slight distortion, and the machine received the order that it was to execute not an electro jump, but an electro jumbo. And so it did. The machine created the electro jumbo, a dangerous dragon. Meanwhile, the king was busy liberating some provinces of Cyberia from artificial cyber enemies, and completely forgot about the order given to the computer on the moon. Then suddenly, giant boulders came down from there. The king was shocked and telegraphed the moon computer at once demanding an explanation. But the machine didn't reply. It was gone. But the Electro Dragon was there, and it threw heavy rocks upon his kingdom. The king began sending to the moon his armies to fight the dragon, but they accomplished nothing. Polyandor thought and thought, but he saw no remedy and didn't know what to do. One night, the Electro Dragon telegraphed the king, "Dear Polyandor Partobon, clear out, because I, the dragon, intend to occupy the throne." The king quivered with horror, and the only thing that came to his mind was to go to the palace vaults, where stood the strategy machine, old and very wise. He didn't consult it for a long time, as they had argued on the subject of a certain military operation. But now was not the time to think of that. His throne, his life was at stake. So he cried, "My old computer, my good computer, the dragon wishes to deprive me of my throne. Help! Speak! How can I defeat it?" The strategy machine answered, "First, you must admit I was right in that previous business. And secondly, I would have you address me only as Digital Grand Vizier, though you may also say to me, Your Ferromagneticity." "Good, good. I'll name you Grand Vizier. I'll agree to anything you like. Only save me," cried the king. The machine whirred, churred, hammed, chammed, then said, "It's a simple matter. We built an Electro Dragon more powerful than the one located on the moon. It will defeat the lunar one. It will be an Ultra Dragon, and I can make it right away. It won't take a minute, king." Polyandor objected. "Old computer, stop! The Electro Dragon you are making will defeat the other dragon, granted, but it will surely remain in the other's place. How then are we going to get rid of it in turn? I don't want there any dragon at all." The strategy machine said, "Now that's a different matter. Why didn't you say so in the first place? You see how illogically you express yourself? One moment, I must think. Go and telegraph the dragon that you will give it the throne on the condition that it performs 3 mathematical operations. Really quite simple." The strategy machine explained everything to the king, who went and sent a telegraph to the moon. The dragon agreed. The first operation which the dragon had to perform was divide yourself by yourself. The Electro Dragon divided itself by itself, but since 1 Electro Dragon over 1 Electro Dragon is 1, it remained on the moon and nothing changed. The second operation which the dragon had to perform was extracting its root. The dragon extracted the root and threatens me still. What now? Thought the king. Oh, it has 1 more operation to perform, he thought. Now the king ordered the dragon to subtract itself from itself. The dragon began to subtract itself from itself, taking away its tail first, then legs, then trunk, and finally it took away its head and became 0. In other words, nothing. "The Electro Dragon is gone. Thank you, old computer. Many thanks. You have worked hard. You have earned a rest. So now I will disconnect you." But the machine replied, "Not so fast, my dear. I do the job and you want to disconnect me? And you no longer call me your ferromagneticity? That's not nice. Not nice at all. Now I myself will change into an electro-dragon, yes, and drive you from the kingdom, and most certainly rule better than you, for you always consulted me in all the more important matters. The machine began to change into an electro-dragon. Then the king, breathless with fright, tore the slippers off his feet and began beating it blindly. The computer choked, and got muddled in its program, and before the king's very eyes, the computer turned into electro sauce. "Oof, what a relief," said the king. And he stood for a moment staring at the dark pool of gravy. After that, he put on his slippers and returned to the royal bedchamber. Then, as an afterthought, he decided to destroy his telegraph, as it was the source of all his trouble. From that time on, he was an altogether different king. The events he had undergone made his nature less bellicose, and to the end of his days he engaged exclusively in civilian cybernetics, and left the military kind strictly alone. And this is the happy ending of our tale about Cyberia, the land of cybernetics, in which the great war games of the king and the tiny error of the machine almost led to a disaster.